Welcome back to PSC Tech Byte. This week I want to talk with you about how you can use the SharePoint framework to extend Microsoft Teams with custom tabs. In fact, with the SharePoint framework version 1.7.x, Microsoft made it possible under preview in the beta release to build Microsoft Teams tabs using SharePoint framework. Actually, you will build a SharePoint framework client-side web part that will be able to be hosted in Microsoft Teams as well as in SharePoint Online, of course. In order to do that, you have to do the scaffolding of SharePoint framework solutions using the plus beta flag using the human generator. And by doing that, you will be able to create a web part that can be executed both in SharePoint Online and in a tab of Microsoft Teams. And within the client-side web part, you will be able to see and to determine if your web part is running in the context of SharePoint Online or in the context of Microsoft Teams. Mind the fact that you will need to enable the developer preview of Microsoft Teams in your team client or in the web client in order to being able to play with such functionality, which is still under beta, of course. So let me move to the demo environment and let me show you how to play with such kind of functionality in SharePoint Framework and Microsoft Teams. So here we are in Microsoft Teams. Let's start having a look at what you can do when you create custom SPFx tabs for Teams. So in my channel, I will add a new tab. I will be able to select an item, which is a custom one that I created with SharePoint Framework, and it will be my news web part, which can be used to browse the news published on this site under the cover of my Microsoft Teams team. So I'm using the PMP editor controls, for example, property editor controls, and I can use it to select the site pages as the content for all of the news in my target site. And once I will save, I will have a new tab created in my site with the client-side web part, as you can see, rendered, and rendering the news coming from the SharePoint site, which sits under the cover of my Microsoft team. How can we do that? Well, first of all, from a configuration perspective, at the team level, I can go here and say that I want to manage my team, and in the app section, I can upload a custom app. What I can do from here is to select a zip file, which will include a manifest file and a couple of icons, which can be used to present the icon of my app and my tab in the current team. How can we build such a manifest, and how can we create overall such a solution with SharePoint Framework? Well, using the human generator, you can create or scaffold a new SharePoint Framework solution using yo@Microsoft/SharePoint. And right now, in the current release of SharePoint Framework, you can use the --plus beta instruction to have the beta version of SPFx, which includes the Microsoft Teams support. Otherwise, you will not get it. By doing that, you will have the scaffolding of a SharePoint Framework solution in which there will be a Teams folder, which is not there by default right now, unless you use the plus beta flag. And in the Teams folder, you will have a JSON file, manifest.json file, which will be created for you. This file is the one that instructs Microsoft Teams about the custom tab that you want to provide. The main information in the manifest file are, for example, the ID of the manifest. This one has to be exactly the same of the ID of the client-side web part that you develop in the SharePoint Framework solution. Moreover, you will have some links and some URLs to the developer, so your company. You can have a short and a long description for your tab. You can define what are the icons, what is the main accent color for your solution, and so on and so forth. You can also define what are the valid domains for this web part and for the tab in Microsoft Teams, so that if you need to consume external sources from your web part, you can declare them here and you will be able to access them. Otherwise, you will not be able to. Once you have the manifest file and you have a web part, whatever it is, it could be a web part built with JavaScript or with React, as I did here. In the web part, you can have access to the context of SharePoint Framework as usual and to the Microsoft Teams property. If the Microsoft Teams property is null, you are not in the context of Microsoft Teams. Otherwise, if this context.Microsoft Teams property is not null, it means that you are in the context of Microsoft Teams. In fact, if I go back to my Microsoft Teams site and I go here and I see the output of the tab, we can see that the web part here will say that we are in Microsoft Teams. Welcome to Microsoft Teams. But at the same time, if I render the same web part in a SharePoint page, as you can see, we can see that we are not in Microsoft Teams. So based on the existence of the Microsoft Teams object, I can define if I am or if I'm not in the right context of Teams. And I can also get a full reference of the context using the syntax in the client-side web part. My specific client-side web part, in its rendering, will simply use a fetch news method, which is based on PMP.js. So I'm using a reference to the current website. I'm getting a reference to the items of type promoted, so of the news defined in the site pages of my site. I get them back and I populate the state of my object with the list of news items. Nothing more than that. And I do that whenever the component did mount or whenever the component did update, and I have a list in target, which will be the library of pages that I use as a data source for my library, for my web part, sorry. As I said, here I can see if I am in Teams, I can show a specific welcome message, otherwise I will show another one. And this in Teams property is a property of my React component, which I can assign when I do the render of my web part based on the fact that I am or I am not in Microsoft Teams. So pretty easy from this perspective. Once I developed my SharePoint Framework solution, and once I have my manifest ready to go, I can simply go to the folder of my solution, and I can go there and have access to the Teams folder, select the manifest and the two icons, and create a zip file, which will be with a flat structure. So inside of the zip file, I will simply have the manifest JSON file, as well as the two icons that I'm using for my solution. Once I've done that, I go back to Microsoft Teams. In the team, manage team, as I said, apps. I upload a custom app and I select the zip file that I just created. By doing that, I will be able to play with my custom team tab. Of course, in order to be able to run your client-side web part, you will also have to create the SPFx file and upload it on the app catalog, as well as to install the client-side web part solution in the target SharePoint Online site, backing your Microsoft team, or you can eventually configure the solution to make all the client-side web part tenant-wide available, so that you will not have to install the client-side web part solution in every Microsoft team SharePoint site. Bear in mind that you will have also to enable in the client the developer preview in order to being able to play with these functionalities. And moreover, in order to properly play with the Teams tab, if you just created a new team for the sake of testing your tab, you will also have to go to the SharePoint site for the very first time in order to create a new instance of the SharePoint Online site backing your team. Otherwise, you will not be able to add a tab based on SPFx, because the SPFx tab will rely on the already existing SharePoint Online site that is backing your team. That's it. Have fun. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it useful, and as usual, I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.